Have you ever wondered about the nature of a truly haunting presence? Not the fleeting memory of a beautiful face or a charming laugh, but the kind of presence that embeds itself into the psyche, that dismantles a person from the inside out. We are often told that irresistible attraction is a product of chemistry, of shared values, of a magnetic pull between two souls destined to meet. But this is a comforting simplification, a story we tell ourselves to make sense of a force that is often far more complex and far more terrifying. The reality, the one that operates in the shadows of the human mind, is that the most profound and obsessive connections are not always born of love. Sometimes, they are the result of a deliberate and masterful deconstruction. Today, we are not talking about romance. We are talking about a form of psychic warfare, about a woman who understands the architecture of the male ego so profoundly that she can unravel it, thread by thread, until the man is left with nothing but an obsessive fixation on her. This is not about winning a heart. This is about conquering a mind. And if you stay until the very end, you will understand the terrifying power that is unleashed when a brilliant, guarded woman decides to stop playing the game of love and starts directing the theater of the unconscious. To understand this phenomenon, we must turn away from poetry and towards psychology, specifically to the work of the renowned psychologist Carl Jung. Jung gave us a map of the inner world, a landscape populated by the ego, the shadow, and the anima. The ego is the conscious self, the identity we present to the world, the captain of our ship. It is our sense of I am confident, I am successful, I am in control. The shadow, however, is everything we are that we refuse to acknowledge. It is the repository of our repressed insecurities, our hidden shames, our darkest potentials. Most people spend their entire lives running from their shadow, projecting it onto others, calling their exes crazy or their rivals unethical to avoid facing the same traits within themselves. And then there is the anima. For a man, the anima is the unconscious feminine aspect of his psyche, the archetypal image of woman that he carries within him. She is the muse, the soul guide, the source of his creativity and his connection to the numinous. But when she remains unconscious, he projects her onto real women, seeking in them the wholeness he lacks in himself. He does not fall in love with the woman herself, but with the reflection of his own soul that he sees in her. Now, imagine a woman who understands this map intimately, not as an academic theory, but as a practical, weaponizable schematic. She recognizes that the charismatic, confident man is often the one with the most fortified ego, and therefore, the one with the deepest, most unacknowledged shadow and the most desperate, unconscious projection of his anima. His strength is his greatest vulnerability. This woman does not seek to appeal to his ego. She seeks to dismantle it. She does not try to embody his anima. She hijacks the projection, becoming the screen upon which he plays out the drama of his own psychic disintegration. She is not a participant in a relationship. She is a catalyst for an implosion. Consider the man she chooses. He is not a weak man. On the contrary, he is the epitome of conventional power. He is charismatic, successful, the kind of man who navigates the world with an easy sense of entitlement. His confidence is his currency, and he spends it freely. Women are drawn to him not just for his status, but for the certainty he projects. He is the one who sets the terms, who defines the pace, who decides when a relationship begins and when it ends. He moves through life as a collector of experiences and people, leaving behind a trail of admirers and heartbroken women he labels as too emotional or too demanding in his mind. He is the stable center around which others orbit. This narrative is the bedrock of his identity. He believes he knows himself. He sees his reflection in the admiring eyes of others and finds it pleasing. He is a master of the surface, skilled in the art of conversation that reveals nothing, of intimacy that demands no real vulnerability. His inner world is a territory he has never felt the need to explore because the outer world has rewarded him so handsomely for staying right where he is. He is a man who has never been truly challenged, not in a way that shakes the foundation of his being. He has faced business rivals and romantic competitors, but he has never faced an opponent who refuses to play on his field, who targets not his assets or his status, but the very structure of his self. He is a fortress with unguarded gates, powerful and imposing, but utterly unprepared for an attack from within. He projects his shadow constantly, seeing his own latent instabilities and insecurities in the women he leaves. All my exes were crazy, he might say, a statement that is not an observation but a confession. He is admitting that he evokes chaos in others because he cannot face the chaos in himself. He is the perfect subject, a man whose entire sense of self is a carefully constructed house of cards, waiting for the right hand to deftly pull one from the bottom. Then she enters his life. She is not what he expects. She doesn't flatter him with overt admiration or chase him with desperate energy. There is a stillness about her, an emotional economy that he finds both intriguing and unsettling. She listens more than she speaks, and when she does speak, her words seem to land with a peculiar weight. Her brilliance is not loud. It is an unnerving perceptiveness. She sees him, but she does not see the charismatic facade he presents to the world. She sees the architecture beneath it. She sees the load-bearing walls of his ego, the hairline fractures of his insecurity, the dusty, sealed-off room of his shadow. Her initial strategy is one of pure mirroring, but it is a mirror of a specific, insidious kind. She does not reflect back his curated self-image. She reflects the idealized man he secretly wishes he were. She validates the parts of him that no one else has ever acknowledged, the flicker of depth he himself has ignored, the nascent potential he has sacrificed for easy success. For the first time, he feels not just admired, but understood on a soul level. This is the first dose of the poison, and it is intoxicating. He feels a connection that seems profound, transcendent even. He thinks he has found his equal, his other half. He mistakes her calculated observation for genuine empathy. He believes she is showing him his own soul, not realizing she is merely showing him the blueprint for his own prison. This phase is crucial because it establishes her as the sole source of a unique and powerful form of validation he has never known. He begins to need it. He begins to crave the way she sees him. Her perception becomes more real to him than his own. Once the dependency is established, the second phase begins, the slow and deliberate disruption of his ego. It starts subtly. She introduces ambiguity. A conversation ends abruptly. A shared glance is held a second too long, filled with an emotion he cannot name. A promise of a future encounter is left vague, hanging in the air like a question mark. She creates a chasm between her words and her actions. She might say something deeply intimate, then act with cool detachment for days. This inconsistency is not random. It is a meticulously calibrated assault on his sense of certainty. He, a man accustomed to being in control, finds himself in a state of constant analysis, replaying their interactions, searching for meaning, for a pattern, for the validation that was once so freely given and is now unpredictably withdrawn. His mind, once a calm sea of self-assurance, becomes a turbulent ocean of doubt. Did he say something wrong? Did he misinterpret the signs? He is being conditioned, like a lab animal, to associate her with both intense pleasure, the validation, and intense pain, its withdrawal. This is the foundation of obsession. She is no longer just a woman. She is a puzzle he must solve to regain his equilibrium. But the puzzle is unsolvable because she keeps changing the rules. She is training him to look to her not for love, but for a return to normalcy, a state of being he can no longer access on his own. His ego, which thrives on predictability and control, begins to starve. Now, with his ego weakened and his mind fixated, she deploys her most powerful weapon, the projection of his own shadow back onto him. She does this not with accusations, but with subtle insinuations and masterfully posed questions. If his hidden fear is that he is secretly weak or inadequate, she will praise his surprising strength in a moment of vulnerability, framing it as an exception to a rule he didn't know existed. If his shadow contains a deep-seated fear of being manipulative, she will say something like, "It's fascinating how you can get people to do what you want without them even realizing it," delivered not as a criticism, but as an observation of a unique talent. She holds up a mirror, but the reflection is distorted, showing him the very monsters he has spent his life denying. He begins to second-guess his own motives. Am I being genuine, or am I being manipulative? Am I confident, or is it just arrogance? She plants these seeds of self-doubt in the fertile ground of his growing obsession. He came to her to be seen as his ideal self, and now she is making him see the self he most fears. This is the core of the psychic torment. He cannot reconcile the two images, the God she first showed him and the demon she now subtly reveals. And because he cannot attack her, for she is the source of the validation he so desperately craves, he internalizes the conflict. The war is no longer between him and the world. It is between his ego and his shadow, and she is the silent, watchful moderator of the debate. He finds himself confessing insecurities he never knew he had, seeking her absolution, giving her more and more power over his inner reality. The final act of this psychological siege is her complete appropriation of his anima projection. He had already projected the archetype of the perfect, soul-completing woman onto her. Now, she consciously embodies it while remaining impossibly out of reach. She becomes the living symbol of his own wholeness, a wholeness he can only access through her. Her physical presence becomes less important than her mental one. She occupies his thoughts, his dreams, his every waking moment. He is haunted not by a woman, but by a phantasm he has co-created with her. The qualities he sees in her, her wisdom, her depth, her mystery, are really the qualities of his own soul that he has failed to integrate. He feels that without her, he is not just lonely. He is incomplete, a man severed from the best part of himself. He doesn't just want to be with her. He feels a desperate, existential need to possess her, to merge with her, because he unconsciously believes it is the only way to reclaim his own soul. And she, in her sovereign detachment, denies him this. She offers glimpses, moments of connection so profound they feel like a homecoming, only to retreat back into her own world, leaving him in a state of spiritual starvation. This is the true nature of his obsession. It is not romantic love. It is anima possession. He is a man bewitched, chasing a reflection of his own lost self, a ghost that she expertly controls. He is no longer the charismatic man who commands his world. He is a supplicant, begging for a single glance from the woman who has become the keeper of his psyche. The transformation in him is devastating. The easy confidence is gone, replaced by a feverish, anxious energy. His work, once the center of his identity, becomes a colorless backdrop to the vibrant, high-stakes drama of his inner world. Friends notice the change. He is distracted, irritable, his conversations endlessly circling back to her. He analyzes her every word, every text, every silence, searching for clues. He is a detective in a case where the only suspect is his own mind. Sleep offers no escape, as his dreams are colonized by her image. He feels a constant, low-grade humiliation, the shame of a king who has willingly handed over his crown and now cannot remember why. He is consumed by a paradox. The source of his profound agony is also the only perceived path to his salvation. To give up on her would be to accept that this torment was for nothing, to admit that he was not part of a cosmic love story but the victim of a psychological dismantling. And his ego, even in its shattered state, cannot accept this. So he continues the chase, fueled by the intermittent reinforcement she provides. A kind word, a moment of perceived vulnerability from her, is enough to sustain him for weeks. A crumb of hope that the God image she first showed him is the true one, and that he can somehow earn it back. He is no longer living his life. He is inhabiting a feedback loop of her design. The world sees a man falling apart for a woman who seems to do nothing. They see obsession and they judge him for it. They cannot see that he is not chasing her. He is running from the terrifying emptiness she has revealed within him. And what of her during this process? How is she perceived? To the outside world, she is an enigma. She remains poised, controlled, her emotional state seemingly untouched by the maelstrom she has unleashed. She does not engage in the drama. She doesn't argue. She doesn't cry. She doesn't issue ultimatums. When his desperation spills over into frantic texts or pleading calls, she responds with a calm that he perceives as either profound strength or chilling indifference. Both interpretations only deepen his fixation. She shatters the logic of control that governs most relationships. The one who cares less is supposed to have the power, but she seems to operate on a plane beyond caring altogether. She is not playing for power within the relationship. Her power is demonstrated by her ability to exist outside of it, even as she is its central object. She makes people uncomfortable. Other women might see her as cold or unnaturally detached. Other men might see her as arrogant or intimidating. They are all responding to the same thing, her sovereignty. She is a woman who needs nothing from anyone, and in a world built on interlocking needs and dependencies, such a person is a system error. They call him crazy, obsessed, fulfilling the very pattern he once inflicted on others. The irony is crystalline. In seeking to dismantle him, she has forced him to inhabit the role of the very shadow he spent his life projecting onto others. He has become the crazy ex. She does not have to lift a finger to defend herself or tarnish his name. His own behavior, driven by the psychological engine she built, does all the work for her. She remains a figure of quiet, unnerving integrity, while he dissolves into a caricature of lovesick desperation. This woman actively rejects the script society offers. She is impervious to the usual accusations. You're being cruel. You're leading him on. These phrases slide off her, meaningless, because they belong to a game she is not playing. The game of mutual emotional obligation, of unspoken contracts and reciprocal validation. Her contract is only with herself. She is not leading him on. She is allowing him to walk a path of his own making, a path whose destination is the confrontation with his own unintegrated self. Is it cruel? Perhaps. But she might argue that it is a necessary cruelty, a form of radical, unsolicited therapy. She might see herself not as a villain, but as a severe mercy, a catalyst for an awakening that could not have happened any other way. She defies a world that still insists on seeing women through the lens of their relationships to men. She is not a girlfriend, not a lover, not a muse in the traditional sense. She is a psychic force. She is living proof that the most profound power is not the power to attract, but the power to reflect. The power to become a mirror so clear and so unnerving that the person looking into it is forced to see everything they have refused to see. She embodies a terrifying truth. You can only be controlled by that which you do not understand in yourself. Because she has done the grueling work of integrating her own shadow, of understanding her own inner architecture, she can see the unexamined parts of others with breathtaking clarity. Her presence is a quiet indictment of the unconscious life, and it is for this reason that she is both feared and obsessively desired. She is the ultimate threat to the fragile male ego, and the ultimate prize. So what is the endgame? For him, there are only two possibilities. The first, and most common, is complete psychological collapse, a descent into a chronic state of obsession and quiet desperation, forever haunted by the woman who showed him his soul only to prove he did not own it. The second, rarer path is a true awakening. After hitting rock bottom, after the chase proves utterly futile, he might finally be forced to turn his gaze inward. He might be forced to ask, what in me was so hungry for her validation? What emptiness was she filling? What shadow was I running from that she forced me to face? If he can ask these questions, he can begin the painful process of reclaiming the parts of himself he projected onto her. He can start the journey of integrating his own shadow, of developing his own anima. In this scenario, she has, through her brutal methods, shocked him into the process of individuation. She becomes a scar on his psyche that marks the beginning of his true selfhood. He will never forget her, but the obsession will transmute into a form of awe, a respectful and distant memory of the catalyst who shattered his world so he could rebuild it on a more authentic foundation. The love that might come for him after this will be of a different kind. It will not be the desperate, projective love of an incomplete man, but the grounded, conscious love of a man who has faced his own abyss. In the end, the story of this woman and this man is a cautionary tale written in the language of the soul. It is a chilling exploration of power, projection, and the dangerous dance of the unconscious. It reveals that the most unbreakable chains are not forged of steel, but of unexamined psychological needs. The woman in this story is an archetype of awakened, and perhaps weaponized, feminine power. She is the response to a world of charismatic men who move through life with a casual destructiveness, leaving emotional wreckage in their wake. She is the equal and opposite reaction. She is the mirror that does not flatter. This is not an endorsement of her methods, but an analysis of her power. Her power is a reminder that the greatest defense against psychological manipulation is self-knowledge. The integration of the shadow, the conscious engagement with the anima or animus, this is not just esoteric spiritual work. It is the fundamental task of psychic survival in a world where we are all, to some degree, projecting our ghosts onto one another. The man in this story was dismantled because he was a stranger to himself. He outsourced his sense of self first to the world at large and then to her. She simply took what he so freely offered. If something inside you was touched by this story, if a part of you recognizes this dynamic either in yourself or in someone you have known, it is because these archetypal patterns are universal. They are playing out all around us, in quiet, unseen ways. Maybe this video did not find you by accident. Maybe it is a whisper from your own depths, a call to turn your gaze inward, to explore your own inner architecture, so that you may never be dismantled, and never feel the need to dismantle another. Know thyself, for in the world of the psyche, ignorance is not bliss. It is vulnerability. Share your response in the comments. Let us know if this psychological dance feels familiar. Share this video with someone you think needs to hear it. Not out of impulse, but out of choice. Like it if it made you think, and subscribe to our channel for more explorations into the deep and often dark truths of the human condition. Let the message keep resonating.